everybody. Thanks so much for joining in. This is Justin with zZounds, and we're here for another edition of zZounds Live. This time with the Boss Katana bass series of amps. So as you heard on that intro there, this thing is very, very cool. It's got a bunch of onboard effects, a whole bunch of other stuff that we're going to cover here. And we're going to do a kind of a brief dive through this item. But again, this is the Boss Katana bass amp. So just to give you a quick rundown on what I'm playing here before we start, I have my Hofner Ignition club bass right here, and we're going through the 212 version, or I'm sorry, the 210 version of the Katana. So this is the 160 watt version, so very cool. There's also a smaller one, if you can see it over here. This is the 60 watt single speaker version, and this one also has pretty much most of the same features. They're both really great. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive right in. So the Boss series, if you can see this front panel on the top here, this top panel, you'll notice it has a typical layout to most bass amps. So, you know, you got your EQ section. You even have a blend control here, which is very cool. So the blend control will, when you're starting to use those effects, you can start incorporating in your normal dry signal as well. So, and then 3 different amplifier types, which is super cool for, again, for like, you know, affordable amp like this. 3 different speaker types. One of them is a vintage, like old school type tube powered amp. And then there is a flat setting. It's kind of good for maybe acoustic instruments, or if you just want really a neutral profile EQ. And then we have a modern sound, which is kind of a more like full featured, full EQ sound. So if you have extended range basses or, you know, 5 strings, 6 strings, sounds really great with that. I was on the vintage setting a second ago though. So besides that, let's go over here to the left. You can see that there is a compressor and a drive section on the input, which is sweet. So, anyways, these two, I was using the compression very light on this, but it has a built-in compressor and a built-in drive circuit. So very, very awesome. And super dummy proof. There's just a single knob with both of those on there, an inner and an outer knob, and you can just adjust the blend from there. So it's super nice. Now, moving on, we have an effects section, and you heard me use one of the effects, a delay. I'm not certain what delay it was. I think it was supposed to be an old school like tube type delay, but that's what I used for the intro there. So built-in effects here, we will cover so many more throughout this stream. There's, you know, an octave, or there's a filter on there, even reverbs and other delays, drives, fuzzes, things like that. So a lot to cover. And then lastly, the presets over here. You have a preset bank where you can go through and store and recall certain amounts of different preset tones. And lastly, a power control section, which is awesome. So I always love having a power control, especially if I'm in my apartment and I want to get good driven tone at, you know, a bedroom level. The power control is great for that. So what we've got on there is on this one, it's got a standby control, so you can just use it and disengage for maybe a set break or something. And then it has a 1 watt control. Turn it on 1 watt, you can really kind of dime it and, you know, get great like drive tone with that 1 watt setting. I am on the max tone though, so this is going to be at the amp wide open. So again, having a 1 watt is super handy. So yeah, that's a kind of a quick crash course of the top panel, but you'll notice all these buttons. You see all these lights right here. When I first got this amp, I thought those were just LED indicators. But as I, you know, dug in for a few minutes, I was like, oh, these are actually all buttons here. So each one of these will control up to 3 or more different types of sub banks there, and that opens up a ton of other options. So again, I'll cycle through those in a second, but yeah, all of these are indeed LEDs. So very cool. So let's go to the left here. We're going to talk about our amplifier section first, right? So this is the main like kind of heart of the amp. It's going to be where you're going to get all of your kind of preamp section tones. So I'll show you what it sounds like on the vintage setting first. Let me turn off that delay. All right, cool. So this is just exactly where I had the tones at before. Maybe dial the treble down a little bit, but this is the vintage setting. Everything's pretty much at noon, so check it out. So So it's got that like, nice roundness to it. It's kind of softer in the highs, and it drives a lot easier than the other channels do, just like an old tube amp. So let me just quickly switch to the flat setting so you can hear what that's like. All right, so here we're on flat then. So right away you notice that it's got that upper kind of frequency like bite and sparkle to it that the vintage doesn't have. So yeah, you can really exploit that to a good use with this guy. But flat setting sounds great. Oh, hi Katya. I also have the chat open here, so I can see all the chats coming in. So if you have a question for me, feel free to drop it there. I can see these and answer any questions you might have. But let's move on. So that was the flat channel. Let's go to the modern. So yeah, again, it just adds like a different amount of like depth to it, in my opinion. It has a lot more kind of cut. So I prefer running on the this channel, the modern section. So I'll probably be running that for most of the rest of the stream. But just so you guys know, yeah, you got a lot of room to work with if you want those like old school drive tones, etc. So take a look at this though. Above that, on the amplifier, you can see that there are two lights there. One of them, two buttons, I should say. One of them is a pad button, which engages a negative 10 decibel pad. So again, if you just want to attenuate your signal when you're maybe recording, or if you wanted to drive it harder, you can engage that pad, boost it a bit. And then next to that, you have a shape knob, which I believe there's 3 different shapes. So it just changes kind of the EQ curve of each of those settings, and it works with all 3. So let's hear what it sounds like, if there's any noticeable difference right here you guys can perceive. So here's the green thing. This is the red. And then the yellow. So it's probably pretty subtle for you guys out there, but there is very slight tonal differences that you can kind of tap into. And when you're turning the amp up louder, you will notice a difference more on those types of sounds with that shape knob engaged. So cool feature to have though, I think. Just more tone shaping. Never enough if you ask me. So now the blend section next to that, that's going to be a kind of a crucial function for if you're using effects. So obviously you want to blend in your dry signal when you're running things like, drives and fuzzes, because those sometimes kind of suck out your low end. So the blend knob is really great for that, and it's just going to blend in your clean signal versus your effects. Again, there's another button above there that will give you, again, I believe it's just another type of EQ curve that would adjust how the blend sounds in there, which is helpful. So moving on, you got the EQ section, typical bass, low mid, high mid, and then a treble. And again, the buttons above the low mid will change the frequency notch that it actually uses for those knobs. So once again, you got like tons of options to really experiment if you dig into this guy. I'm not going to do so much of that on this stream, just kind of maybe occasionally mess with some sounds, but at home, if you guys want to experiment with that, this thing has a million different sounds you can conjure out of it. So moving on back to the effects, same deal as before. It's just this rotary switch, it has a 2 different knobs on it. So you got 1 effect or 2 effects. You can run both of them simultaneously. And again, you can adjust the bank by just pressing these buttons. And the cool part about that, just before I get back to some more playing, because obviously I know you guys are here for that, you can run 4 different sounds simultaneously. So you can do compressor over here, drive, and 2 of the effects all at the same time, which is pretty dope. So, anyways, let's get back to it, guys. Let's hear some sounds. So I'm just going to adjust my low mid controls, maybe crank these a little bit more, and maybe turn the gain up. We'll see what we get on this modern channel. So. So really kind of like, huge sound you can get by just messing with those low and high mids. Bass control is really sensitive as well, so I loved that. Also this Hofner bass, we've been having fun messing around with this guy here, so this has a lot of tone control options on it as well. So let's go to the treble pickup, hear what maybe a brighter active bass will sound like with this thing. So yeah, it's got a lot of good definition. I never found this thing to be very harsh either in the highs, which is super cool. So works good with power chords and stuff. So yeah, giving you guys an idea of the tone. Now let's go and kind of cycle through some of these effects, since obviously you guys are getting an idea of what this amp sounds like, but let's hear what a couple of these effects sound like. So here's our main bank. And I am not actually certain what all of these stock are on this model, so we're just going to have some fun and cycle through so you guys can hear what those sound like in real time with me. Then later we'll get to the drive tones, because those are fun as well. But right away, let's see what we got here. All right, cool. So it looks like we got a filter in this first setting. Let's play something funky with it, Really cool, right? So love that sound. I actually was kind of messing around with that for a while on the other model, on the smaller model here next to me the other day. But the depth control is just what you're controlling there. So you can open the filter in various ways just with dynamics. So it sounds awesome. Now let's go to the second effect that we have on this stock first bank here. So let's see what we got here. So let's find out what effect we got. Ah, yes, the delay I was using at the beginning. Here, let's mess around with some delay for a second. Like I said before, the blend control, that's where the blend control that you have on the amp is super crucial. If you're messing with delays, you don't want to like get your tone lost with a bunch of delay trails. So anyways, let's have some fun with this guy. Sounds beautiful. So again, you can really mess around with that, get the drive tones in there. So why don't we do that? Let's just follow that train of thought I just had. Let's go engage the drive circuit over here. So let me see where my volume's at. Sound guy warning right here. Yeah, hold on one second. Let me save everybody's ears right now. So. So yeah, see what I mean? Really immediate. You could just like go, oh, I want to drive. Let's just add it in right now. Sounds awesome. So I'll turn off that delay, even though that was really fun. So you can hear this drive sound with maybe some chords, you know. So really fun. So it sounds good too. Like if you want that kind of different types of ragged distortions and fuzzes, it sounds good. I was maybe halfway up on that, so you know, you can really turn it up. But I don't know how much room I got here to do that. We'll see, guys. Yeah, we'll see. And let me turn that blend down. So here, let's just do mostly distortion. We'll see what we get. So really fun, right? It's like, it's so satisfying, so satisfying. So that's it with all the way up. Blend controls, there's barely any dry signal in there. Sound is awesome. Sounds very cool. So yeah, as Pat, our sound engineer right now, is freaking out at me because I'm just cranking drive in his face there. Let's keep going, guys. There's a good compressor on there next to that drive section. Let me show you what that sounds like. Again, you're gonna get a lot of level with the compressor as well, naturally, as you turn a compressor. Again, Pat's so satisfied that I'm just smashing our input signals with that. So let's hear what that compressor sounds like when we turn it up. So it makes me sound like a better bass player when I turn the compressor. Now, in all serious though, you can really get some. Oops, hit the camera there. You can get some good kind of rounding your tone there and distortions when you use those in conjunction. So they're great in the input. Let's go to our tone though. I've been rocking the same tone for a while. Let me change it up and get some different settings here, so I can show you guys the range of the EQ. So here is the bass with the treble turned up. And let's turn the low mid down so we get rid of some of that boominess. All right, so let's do something like this. So that's with some nice amount of treble in there. Good bite, modern setting on the amp. So yeah, sounds great. And here's it with my bass pickup on. can hear it's super round. So with that treble in there, you get a lot of cool definition. Let me turn it down a little bit. So yeah, different basses that might have different characters. You will be able to find a tone that'll work on this guy. So. All right, everybody. So let's go mess around with some more stuff. Again, I feel like now that you guys got a general layout of all the drive, things like that, EQ, let's just go again, kind of explore some of those effects, since I'm sure those of you out there want to know a little bit more about those. So let's go through and hear a few different ones. So we're going to go back to the first effect bank, and we're going to choose this yellow setting. We'll see what it is. So. Very fun. All right, let's go see what the next cycle is on this bank, and we'll kind of just have some fun exploring for a little bit here, guys. Oh, cool. All right, this is what I was looking for. An octaver, man. This is way too fun to play these on bass. Oh man, yeah, you can use it. We just reverse Jack Whited that. Instead of a guitar pitch down, we're bassing it down. Sounds so fun when you use this with maybe a touch of drive in there. So I'll blend back in, maybe see what we can get with an octaver with some drive. Sounds. I love doing like little lead things on bass with that, you know. And then I'm gonna cut that drive a little bit here. You guys can hear it more clean with just the octaver. So it's great. I'm a real sucker for a good octaver, and so this one has a right here. So let's go through one more effect on that first effect side. And again, for those of you who might be a little confused if you're just tuning in now, I'm just cycling through the preset bank 1 options over here. You have this first channel. These are just the stock ones. So let's see what the red is. This might have been the filter from before. Our filter again. So that one's cool, but let's go to the other side. We'll explore this. Let me get this turned off. Let's go to the next side. So this is our delay, and I believe we... So cool, we got a chorus. So beautiful chorus sound. Stock. I believe it just adjusts the intensity of that with that, but it sounds gorgeous. Love doing that chordal type playing with that stuff, you know. I just turned up the knob on it, so it's a faster chorus, you know. So really great. And there is 2 more banks up here. If you actually just hold this panel button for a second, you can cycle through to some of the other ones. You'll notice if I do that, I believe it'll just start blinking right here, and then this panel button will lightly blink as well. That just lets you know you just switched to a different bank. So guess what? We got a bunch of tone settings and different presets then for the effects. So our effects would be all different now. Yeah, so yeah. Very sweet. And that's with my blend about 50%. You can even dial it down. We'll see what it's totally wet like. So you guys get the point. Very instant, very gratifying. And I can cycle through these and go show you a couple more tones, and then I think I'll probably just wrap it up from here, guys. Because yeah, this thing is a monster. It's super light. Thing is 160 watts, and this is Class AB power, so it's not a usual Class D like some of the other competitors with this price range. So an AB will give you tons more headroom, tons more volume. So this thing is just absolutely like blasting us here in this room, and I got the volume at like 3 or 4, so I'm barely hitting the power section very hard. But it can play at full gig levels, no problem. It even has a way you can record at home direct here via USB and bunch of other connection options. It's got an extension cabinet out on it, so you can send this out to another cabinet. A million other things to do. Effects loop on it even. So I didn't even get to touch those earlier, but there is a bunch of stuff you can do. Headphone on here as well. Disengages the main speaker, so you can use it for practicing at night, etc. But it is a very, very cool amp. And I know there's a million things on here, and it looks daunting, but if you plug into it, you get great sounds within seconds. So I was very impressed with how good it sounded through a Lakeland bass I was playing. Now we plugged in the Hofner today. Everything sounds good out of it. So let me get a couple more tones for you guys, and then we'll wrap up. So let's go to that vintage amp type, because I was most curious about that when I saw them, and so we'll see what we get. So vintage. Let's give it some drive on that. Let me see where my levels are at. So this is the just gain, not even the actual distortion effects. But yeah, great, like old school tube amp kind of type sounds. Here, let's do this. So that's the vintage sound. Again, it kind of rolls off some of that treble, so you got a lot of good sound with that. My EQ controls are pretty modest as well, so sounds good fingerstyle as well. Oop, I still got that filter effect on. That'll do something. Hold on a minute. There we go. And if you guys are curious, here's the other pickup sound with the Hofner bass through that. So yeah, a lot thicker. Obviously, that's more the bass, carrying that tone than the amp is. But just to show you guys, if you have really bright or thick sounding pickups, active pickups, passive, again, this has enough ability to shape your tone that you should be able to get great sounds out of it. So, with that being said, guys, I feel like I have had a lot of fun checking this out. If you have any questions, though, feel free to drop them in the chat now, last minute here, before I let you guys go. But again, for those tuning in halfway through, this is the Boss Katana. This is the 160 watt larger version. And great amp. Again, it's light. It has a bunch of effects, great amp sounds, drive, compression, a million other things, ability to record, et cetera, like I covered earlier. So feel free to check it out. We have it on zZounds. So feel free to check this out and see if you want to purchase one of your own. And I hope you guys liked this deep dive demo here. So be sure to like our page and subscribe and check out our next content in the future then. But thanks for watching, guys.